Hello and welcome to Runners Only with Dom Harvey. As you can see in the background, that's my logo for the podcast, Runners Only with Dom Harvey. That was launched, oh come on. Never work with children or animals. Come on. As you can see in the background, it's the logo for my podcast, Runners Only with Dom Harvey, which this sounds cheesy to say, but I'm incredibly proud of. The podcast was launched in March, April 2022. At the time, I decided to call it Runners Only with Dom Harvey because it felt like the podcast market was quite congested, and it felt like that it was necessary to have a niche. And running is something that I'm passionate about. I love talking about running. I love running. I love hanging with other runners. So it seemed like a perfect fit for a podcast. What's happened over the last 18 months or so since the podcast launched is it has grown in ways that I could never have foreseen and never have imagined. The caliber of guests we've had, the download numbers, the listeners, the feedback, everything has just, it's blown me away, quite frankly, and it's been overwhelming. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of the guests that come in, the first thing that they say when we open the conversation is they'll make a comment about them not being a runner. Some of these guests include the Mad Butcher, John Hart, former All Black coach, Susie Cato, Rachel Hunter. The list goes on and on and on. So, and there's messages every other week, like this message from Saucy Susie. This is not written with a negative context, but have you considered changing the name of your podcast to remove the Runners Only title? I didn't listen at first, as I thought it was related more to running or sports. How wrong I was, and how amazing every podcast is. Imagine if others out there are like I was. Dom, you are helping and empowering so many. I think you've only just scratched the surface of your podcast journey. Thank you for what you're doing, how you're doing it, and for being you. So for Saucy Susie and the literally hundreds of other people that have DM'd me, I honestly get at least a couple each week from people saying I'm not a runner, I put off listening because I'm not a runner, I don't like running, blah, blah, blah. I thought it's time for a change, a rebrand. This is very exciting. Runners Only with Dom Harvey is no more. It is now the Dom Harvey Podcast. Same guy, actually the same content as well. The Dom Harvey Podcast. So what does this mean exactly? Well, to be honest, very little. Not much is going to change. It's going to be the same amazing guests, similar sort of conversations to what we've been having. And in all honesty, my love of running hasn't changed. So if there's runners that I'm interested in, that I think have got a great story that is worthy of sharing, they'll still be on the podcast. So the motivation for this is potentially broadening it. So any guests that are put off coming on because it is a running podcast will no longer be. Any potential listeners that are reluctant to listen because they hate hearing about running, maybe it'll rope them in. And potentially some new sponsors as well. So it's a very exciting change for me personally in the podcast journey, 18 months in, just a name change, a rebrand if you will. And I cannot thank you guys enough for the support so far and hopefully the support moving forward. So Runners Only with Dom Harvey is no more. It is now the Dom Harvey Podcast. A big change, but also a very little change. And wonderful to have you guys along for the journey. Let's go.